Welcome in, everyone. RF Refugees podcast. Ted here. Jon is also here. We're both back.
A rare feat.
The vibes are immaculate. The vibes are great. We're sitting fifth place in the Eastern Conference. We're sitting in the playoff spot. DC United is, at least. The Washington Spirit are sitting second. They're rolling. So vibes are great, right, Jon? Everything's fixed. Everything's better.
I think because you and I went our separate ways for a couple of weeks, we really set in place this momentum change shift here in the nation's capital. So what I'd like to say is you're welcome, world and DC, for doing that. And, subscribe to our Patreon as we continue to impact the world by our by our podcast choices.
Just what we're saying, DC United MLS Cup champion 2026 confirmed, I think, is what I'm hearing from this.
If we do a period in August, well, I guess at post window, maybe late fall, Ted and I will both go on 2-week vacations that are countersynced, so that we have a month of just dominating football before the playoffs start.
Exactly. Make that run in the playoffs. But Jon, how you doing, my friend? How is the time away? I guess we've both been busy. We've both been doing things and
been flying around, doing my work stuff. I'm headed to DC as soon as we adjourn to do more work stuff. It's gonna be something. But it's been good this weekend. This weekend was my daughter's 6th birthday party, so that was pretty rad. And then I played baseball the next morning, and it was cold, and I got on base, and I was like, I'm going to steal. I'm fast. And literally one step, and my quad was like, pop. So that was a good lesson in father time and whatnot. But other than that, pretty good weekend. What about you? Did you get your reffing on? It was good weather.
I did for Saturday. Had a nice little violent conduct situation.
Oh.
Lovely little situation that reared its head in one of my last games. Always fun. Always enjoyable. Then we went to a wedding. My wife's college friend was getting married up right outside of Baltimore, basically. Apparently at this Gramsley Mansion or something like that. I don't know. Maybe some people know about it. Apparently it's was some sort of place bought by a robber baron. I don't know. There were some Nazi ties someone was trying to explain to me at the wedding. But
I don't need to just keep that. I'm just here for the open bar. Don't need that. So Ted's at the age where he's still catching the tail end of I don't want to say tail end. I don't want to be mean. There's some wedding concentrations happening right now.
Yes.
At my age is in 2 more years, I think is when the second wedding, that's when that wave hits. And then I think you're done after that. And then it's kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of doing the thinking amongst my wife's friends. Most of my friends are pretty much either married or I went through that very quickly, and I transferred colleges, so there are different friends and different scenarios and things like that. But yeah, I think it's more my wife's friends. I was like, I think we'll get one more. We got maybe one more wedding that could potentially come down the pipeline. I don't know. Prediction.
There's not as many opportunities to dance once these things end. So hope you get your moves, get your rugs to cut now, and then they'll stop.
Yeah. Anyway, let's people don't like it when the soccer wise people talk basketball. So
too bad. We're talking old people wedding things. So tough cookies.
So anyway, let's talk soccer. Let's talk DC United. DC United firing into the weekend, a game against City Stadium, which has been a house of horrors for DC United in many seasons.
Any baseball field, which is a soccer field, has been that case. Yankee Stadium and City Field have both been a nightmare to watch visually on screen, but also for them to play.
I believe this will be the last time DC United will play at City Field, so at the City Stadium. They will be, of course, moving to their new stadium right across the street, which actually I didn't really connect when I went out there. I went out there for a game to see them play Charlotte, and I didn't really connect that's where the stadium was, and I guess I didn't take a look over across the street to see how the construction's been going with that. So.
Did the plan come to fruition with the big casino and stuff, or is it just going to be the stadium?
I have no idea. You would know more about that. I didn't even know there was a casino involved in it.
That was part of it,
but DC United going out to City Field and picking up a hold on, let me check my notes here. I'm sure it was a 5-0. Oh, it's 2-0 win.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Well, that's not what the notes say. Weird.
That's not what the predictions, that's not what the markets would have. That's not what the national media would have said. DC United, 2-0 victory, 2 goals from Luis Munteanu, a kind of scrapper type goal, and then off a penalty kick.
I don't know if you're making the joke there, but are you actually on the game notes page on DCUnited.com right now?
I'm not on the game notes.
It literally does say DC United 5, New York City FC 0.
Are you serious?
It literally does right now.
Man.
If you go to, and the reason I bring that up is twofold. One, that's funny because you made that was an accidental joke that was actually telling the truth. So if you go to game notes right now and look at it, that's the score. Also, before the game, DC United sent out multiple emails advertising Open Cup games that are never going to happen that were written God knows how long ago. One was from a previous year.
They were last year. They were because they played. I believe one of them was advertising a game against the Charleston Battery. They played the Charleston Battery in the round of 32 of the Open Cup.
Someone said Troy Lesane had access to the email. The email server was going back and doing a little warfare. But the fact that the 5-0 is very funny. Yes, but no, it wasn't 5-0. It was 2-0, despite the vibes that are percolating.
Yes. I guess DC United's fixed, right? They're going to go on a war path. It was very interesting. I guess I check out what the national media, I check out what the Matt Doyles, what the, and the framing, the national framing of the match is, man, NYCFC are poor right now, to lose to DC United. But that's why we're here, because we're going to break down. There's some interesting things. I think there's some things to take away from this. I think this is a big victory. I said it vaulted DC into 5th place in the Eastern Conference, which is it's a strange sight to see, if we're being honest, based on the vibes of the season. Luis Munteanu, of course, getting a goal. What does this mean? What does this game entail? I don't know if we'll have the entire answer. But let's break it down. Let's talk about it. So coming into this game, obviously, Tai Baribo out. I believe Renée pretty much telegraphed that on his pre-match conference. Also,
he telegraphed a couple things on that pregame press conference.
Yeah, couldn't help dropping a little bit on Pirani, essentially calling him a player only concerned about himself.
You got shooters out here that hate Pirani more than I do, I think, now at this point.
What do we like? I mean, what is this? Like, what is this? Like, at this point, man, it's just like, does it? What is going on with that? It's such a weird vibe, I guess, from a coach.
It is crazy. I think he can afford to do this because he knows that Pirani is not helping them on the field. I think so. If you can be a pain in the butt and good and making a difference, but you cannot be a pain in the butt and not do anything on the field and actively apparently like just not adhere to tactics and what is being told for him to do. So
I think there is truly a sentiment amongst the locker room. I don't feel like if there are still people out there on this team that maybe they still like Pirani as a person, but as a teammate, as everything else, I have to feel their work. And I think it was noticeable. I forget who noticed it. I think it was Jason Anderson during some of the matches where Pirani was playing. Pirani sort of gesturing to his teammates about how frustrated he was with something, and everyone just kind of like ignoring him, almost like, yeah, no, we're not going to pay attention to you. There are some players out there, man. I mean, we all have those players on like our adult league teams. I think they are like just the best players ever. They know everything. They're the greatest. And in actuality, they're maybe not as good. And drive other. We've all had those players, I feel like, on our teams and everything else. They're too good for everybody around them. And yeah, he's about to find out, man.
I told Roche that I was like, oh, this is the first time he made a comment. I was like, yeah, he's testing him. He wants to see what kind of response he'll get out of him in a training week. And no, the answer is he's burying him under the ocean is what he's doing now. So he will never play. He's not playing for this club again. He'll be gone in the summer as soon as he can get him out of here.
I think Tom Bogart hinted as much. I'm not sure how the team feels about it necessarily. Maybe there was some value for him. Now
there's not now.
that value maybe has dwindled a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what they get for him, because clearly he's going to go away. Clearly this team wants to go and make moves. He frees up a U22 slot, doesn't free up an international slot because he has a green card. I mean, it'll be curious. Maybe there will potentially be, I don't quote me on this, but I don't know. Maybe there is I could see a possible trade within the league as a possibility for, something extremely cheap. I guess depending on the team, whether they're using that U22 slot, because he is cheap, of course, as he costs the cap. So I could see some teams saying like, well, there's some good sub appearances for him. We can have him in here. He can be a talent, kind of like a bit piece.
He won't be roster. A 10. We were not asking him to do that. We want him to shoot. We want him to be a super sub that shoots from outside the 18 towards the end of the games.
Yeah.
And that is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry to digress on that. I think that's just I think that's like one of the more interesting. DC United has been boring for many, many years. And part of that has been like the lack of sort of off the field drama that it pertains to the players. This is like one of the more spicy things that we've seen between a coach and a player since this podcast has started.
Yeah.
And particularly since he's a player that you and I have run into the ground for multiple years. It's funny to be seeing this. I'm not feeling as much joy as I thought I would feel at this. I don't know why. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's a kind of a weird feeling.
It says something. It raises questions about why he was continually trying to play him out. I have to feel like there was some notion with him is like, I'm going to give him a run out. I know this guy's not good enough. I know that I need to get better players in here, but I know there's some interest around Brazil for him. So I'm going to give him a run out. And if he can just, nick in a couple goals, maybe get a couple, assists, and then, there's a fee that can be acquired for him. They can sell him. The ownership's going to be okay with it. I can get him out of here. And then suddenly it was just like, oh, no, he's not doing anything. He's not helping his value at all. The only positive thing he did was kind of a weird sort of hold-up play that allowed Peglo to get into the attack and lay the ball off for Baribo in the opening goal against Philly. Other than that, there hasn't been much of anything else. But let's talk about the players who are actually on the field.
Mm-hmm.
It is worth mentioning, I think, in my opinion, of this year, maybe with the exception, I'll put out the Philly game. That was a really good game. But as far as like just from I'll say from a road performance perspective, this was by and large probably the best game I think we've seen from this team. Just considering their opponent, who they were facing, the fact they were on the road, the fact that they were in a baseball stadium, they maximized certain strengths that they had. Apparently Kurokawa / Stroud on a long throw. I think that's the real reason Stroud was out there, is because he could deliver a long throw. Kurokawa also on set pieces. Talk about a player. I do want to mention with Kurokawa, I am a little surprised, and maybe it's just the nature but I'm a little surprised he is not getting some accolades. Attention? Yeah, national attention for what he's been out there. I think he was excellent in this game again. Maybe a little lucky, but
it's entirely about DC United's public reputation and about sort of what the narrative is around. Like, even like you said, the national attention is like, wow, NYCFC is garbage to have this go this way. If he were on a team that were a bit more swashbuckling and a little bit more exciting, he would be absolutely getting that press. But we'll know it. And we'll talk about it at least. I think the fans need to be singing his praises for sure.
And we'll see what comes after this sort of, when does it become a scenario? It's a lot of, I don't think DC's very good. This team isn't very good. When does the narrative can shift on a team when they start picking up points? No one was really paying attention in 2021. And then DC United started to rattle off like some wins. I think it was around, the May, June time frame when they were kind of making that run under Hernan Losada, and like that got some national attention sort of surrounding it.
I'll tell you how it can change, by the way. They win against Nashville. If they do that on national TV on FS1 somehow, that'll change it. I think that'll push it all the way around.
It could happen because I believe Nashville are they will be playing, I think, is it the Champions League game? Is that their return leg will be that next Tuesday?
I'm not sure.
Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll have to go look because they are playing. Yeah, Tigres. They've got Tigres in Tigres, 9:30 p.m.
Sucks to be them. That's unfortunate.
Tomorrow. So a little bit of a break. I don't know. I think we'll see if what the result. If they win, if they manage to, pull off a result. They had a 1-0 loss to Tigres, so it's an uphill battle, to say the least. We'll see what the lineups look like. I guarantee you they might rest. They might sort of rotate, knowing that they can rotate. So I think that would be the only thing. Would be like, well, it wasn't a full strength.
You're right. Very right. Well, I think it would begin to change it. NYCFC is not doing that for other people. Mm-hmm. And honestly, as I watch this game, and it's a victory the XG story is that DC United just absolutely was the only aggressor. NYCFC did look extremely flat in the attack, and when they did, DC United does a really good job of their low post, basically like their low post defense. Basically, they're able to get into a defense, a resting defense that does not allow high opportunity shots. They're like, yeah, shoot from outside the 18, go for it. John Johnson is still real good at that. So if you want to do that, that's fine. That's not where he has, if he has any struggles, it's not in that. It's maybe like managing crosses and stuff. But I think from a long shot perspective, he is still probably top tier.
Yeah. I mean, really, I think a lot of credit, sort of that early part of the game, the low block, Servania and Peltola. I thought Servania had one of his best games. Peltola was still good, was still solid, but Servania had a couple nice long shots, delivering into the offensive part of the game. There were just moments in this game where they were able to just collapse so effectively on NYCFC, where they would receive the ball in space. Maybe there's something on, and then there would just be this 3, 4, 5 DC players just collapsing. And he was a part of that. Peltola, Servania, and Hefti had some very timely interceptions that they transitioned into attack. I don't know. It could be the short, the extremely short, narrow field at Citi Field, but I did feel like in this game, this was the type of philosophy that can, when you're playing this way, when you play this sort of style, where you're going to sit back, there are moments where you can, if you get on the front foot and you go quick enough, and you're able to push the envelope quickly and take advantage of a team maybe trying to overpress or overcommit on the press. Too many times sort of in these stretches of like 0-0 games or, scoreless games, we've seen this team just kind of like, they get the ball in the break and then they kind of get safe with it. And so there has been, I think, a shift from Renée Weiler of like, no, we can, like, we get the ball in space, we can push the game a little bit. Let's try to see if we can find a moment, maybe try to break them down a little bit. We saw it in the Orlando game. We saw it very clearly in the New Rebels game, and we saw it in this game as well. DC, I think, shockingly, were the better side in this game. They absolutely deserved the 3 points. Once they definitely made some sort of tactical adjustments. We'll get into that into a minute. But overall, I thought a very good performance. Again, the narrative of NYCFC were bad this game is true. I would also make the argument that, yes, NYCFC were bad. If DC was also played poorly in that game, this is probably 0-0 or maybe even 1-0, NYCFC. So I think you do have to give DC and Renée Weiler some credit here, for the performance that they put in.
I think it's more to say like, I don't want to say the scoreline flatters DC United, but I think against I think you said that they took what they had, they took what they were given, they took the constraints of the field that typically stymie them. They've only won one other time at any of the New York City FC, of the 2 baseball fields in history. Mm-hmm. And that was 2022. I was just looking. I was trying to get the scores. In my mind, it's Ola Kamara or it's Nigel Robertha. I can't remember for sure. My foot mob's not working. But it was not a type of performance that you are going to run. The confidence is not going to run away. At least with me, I'm saying that's good. That is, we are already 1 win short of our entire total from last year. So that's good. That's great. And that says how horrible we were last year. And also like what kind of quick progress we're seeing being made with this team. I think a lot of it comes down to the defensive discipline that was instilled at the beginning of the year. That was always possible because the defense, there have been obviously 2 major changes that have happened, but like with discipline and attack and a rigid tactical system, like you could have played this closer to this way last year if you wanted to. You didn't want to. Troy couldn't do that last year. I know he tried to as things started to slip away. He tried to like, all right, I could do Betty Ball. And then it was like, no, actually you can't. Unfortunately, you can't do that. I'm happy they won. I'm not running anywhere away from this yet. It still is a team. It's much like the team from the week prior, but they're stringing wins together. And I think Luis is something we should talk about. It's I think 2 goals helps for confidence. Renée early in the season was protecting this man. like he was his son, and like just like did not want to have tomatoes hurled at him. And so we got to give him time. I'm gonna deploy him at the right time. He would get the little injuries here and there that would delay his full deployment. But now he's fully deployed, it would appear, getting some goals. These are not neither of these goals. Obviously, one's a penalty, but the great positioning, way to be in the box, way to be what is advertised a lot of times from a forward like that. But what was your takeaway on his play, and how does that forestall the rest of the season for you?
Yeah, and Matt Barger, I believe he does some really awesome looking graphs that I love. I believe he works for American Soccer Analysis. Asked the question, says, "What is the real take?" His question was Luis for Ballon d'Or. That was his joke question. Yeah, sure, why not? How much? His real take question is, how much should we be reading into Luis' run of goals? I would say watching him out there, he is not the only thing maybe he's added a little bit to his game that wasn't there. He's confident and wants to take a shot from outside the box. And he had a moment where he struck the ball, and it was a good take. I think, Matt Freese is a, high quality U.S. international goalkeeper. It wasn't going to maybe trouble him too much, but he forced him into a save. It was not a comfortable save. So definitely that aspect of his game is good. I don't think there's anything he was doing out on that field that was any different that sort of led to the goals. Like you said, I think he found some positions to be right place, right time. I think the real question is going to be, it seems to me, maybe I have a feeling, call it a hunch, that maybe Tai Baribo could have gone off the bench. But maybe there's a sense from Renée, he's like, well, Luis is scoring, things are going well. We can maybe give him another week just to make sure he's fully 100% healthy. The real question is going to be, once Tai Baribo's back, what does this lineup look like? Because I don't believe, could be wrong, I don't think we've seen these two play together for an extended amount of time.
Not extended. I think they've had 15, 20-minute camp. When Luis was doing cameos at the end of the beginning of the season, I think that's the only time. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know how that's going to work out. Obviously, Jackson Hopkins has been filling, quote unquote, the false nine role and sort of serving as a de facto forward at some points in the last 3 games. He's not one to demand the ball. He's not going to be he's not going to be Tai Baribo as far as like ball utilization. It's not going to be the same. So it will be interesting to see how these two can work. They've got to figure it out.
Give me a question here. Here's a question for you. And this has been like just fixture lookup, and hopefully it is not wrong here. Yeah, I think it's all right. When was the last time DC United had a 4-game unbeaten streak with at least 2 wins? What's your guess?
2 years ago?
August 2021.
Oh,
they had a stretch. This ended up being like a 5-game unbeaten streak, by the way. I think it was right when, Hernan Losada was rolling, but 2-2 draw, July 21st to Chicago, and then a 1-0 win over the Red Bulls, a 0-0 draw against Cincy, and then a 4-2 win over Columbus. So that is the last time, according to what I can see.
This was the Let's Fly era of DC United,
yes,
I believe.
This was the very brief Let's Fly era of DC United, when it looked like things maybe were going to be great and happy.
If you don't count wins, you got to remember René's start here, which was like a 5-game unbeaten of all draws. And then they were like touting that very loudly in the media, or in the team media, like Renée Weiler is an unprecedented start. They're not scoring goals, but
but yeah, no, it is good to see the goal scoring. I think there is some, just watching this team play, I think maybe just getting comfortable with each other. We're seeing a lot more offensive, at least an offensive strategy, where before it looked like there was nothing. Now there appears to be some form of cohesion, and maybe players a little more comfortable playing together. And we're seeing a lot more offensive opportunities. This team did have some moments that could have turned into goals and could have turned opportunities. There was one, I think, Jackson Hopkins had right in front of the box, where all he had to do was kind of sweep it away. Yeah, go ahead.
NYCFC, I was surprised at how much time DC United had on the ball on a small field a lot of times. Because what I have found to be DC's biggest weakness is that they have not looked like they want to know what they do with the ball when they get it. I think maybe earlier in the season they just didn't have a good plan B. And so if it was like trying to string pass together in the midfield, it was just like, I don't know. And they would get the ball and they would get it taken away because they didn't have something in mind. And in this game, New York City seemed to play off of them and give them opportunities and sort of like, and almost play off and be like, all right, beat us with a pass. go ahead. And a lot of times they didn't. I was watching a lot of sort of like aimless through balls that didn't work out because you didn't have a real number 9 running the channels. It was a very peculiar game, I thought, to watch, but I'm happy that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah. To add to your point, yeah, I mean, there were maybe some moments of some nice little interplay that I saw and then it was kind of that last pass really wasn't there. But you're right. I think they had something like 70-something% possession at
Very
one point
unusual.
during the match.
Not what happens at New York and that unusual. I mean, I think NYCFC's roster is a bit compromised. You had an injury in warm-up, so I think that probably would have. Although that
and
player is
too, and a first half sub too.
Yeah. So there's always something to point to. But
yeah, definitely. A game that's good to get. I mean, this is a game that you, I think, look back when you're looking at what teams make the playoffs and what teams don't make the playoffs. And this is what I talk about. This is a win where I think you maybe punched above your weight. I guess we'll see. NYCFC's struggling a little bit. But getting these types of wins are big ones to get. And they can allow you to have maybe a rough moment, like a 4-0 loss to FC Dallas or something like that. So it's a lot about the diet of the wins too.
And by the transitive property of MLS, Orlando beat Inter Miami this weekend. Thus, we are in fact better than Inter Miami, having beaten Orlando 2 weeks ago. So it's all looking up for us.
The circle of parity continues in MLS.
Atlanta. I didn't see Atlanta played Montreal this weekend. God rest anyone who watched that game as a neutral. That had to be low on the Apple TV watch charts.
God rest anyone watching most of these teams in the Eastern Conference right now. Sans like Nashville. Nashville's like the only team. By the way, man. I mean, Andy Nahar I think there was a video that was posted where Andy Nahar literally dribbles around a dude and then just hits this beautiful outside ball. Andy Nahar apparently also was, they took out Kevin Sullivan, the only offensive player for Philly because Andy Nahar was going to be out there. So
remember when we got rid of him because he was too injury prone, he could never stay on the field, and he was a spent force. They wouldn't want to give him any more money. It's a shame what happened to him. Just having to, that was the end of his career. He works at Whole Foods. I think that's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Definitely not ripping it up on
definitely
the
not for the best team for the best team in the Eastern Conference.
And a player will probably rip through us potentially next Saturday. But we'll see, man. Hey, vibes are weird right now. Vibes are weird. Anything else we want to call out from this game? Any particular notes?
I don't. I'm excited to see what they can do against. We've already sort of given you the asterisks how this game will be perceived if they do win it, but that game interests me a lot. And also what they come out for coming off the back of the game of the Champions League game. So
if they get a 0-0 draw, if they
love it, A+.
Yeah. I think I was asked what is the, over under. I was asked for 4 points. I said, well, make it 4.5. What's or 3.5, we'll say. So already they've, they're close to eclipsing that. But, I said, 4 points would be magical. Now you're setting yourself up with a win, on the road. That was a game, this game, NYCFC in best case scenarios, NYCFC are struggling a little bit. Maybe that's a game you could sneak a draw out of. To sort of escape with 3 points is amazing. And then you've got Nashville, you've got Chicago at home, who Chicago are good. They're a good team. And they'll be looking to maybe turn the tide after we very much stole a game against Chicago against them. So, it'll be these next 2 games. I think are going to tell you a lot. If DC can, manage, if they manage 9 points, then goodness gracious, there will be maybe a lot of confused national media as to what the heck is going on.
Then the vibes become certified. Then they're legit.
But if they pick up 7 points, if they pick up 5 points, I think that would be a successful run of games for them.
I'm just looking to make sure that we don't bottom out. The thing that kill the vibes are another 4-0 drubbing somewhere. That's go to Nashville and get walloped by a rotated side. Yeah, that would probably not feel great.
Yeah, and you're really targeting. I mean, you're targeting from a fixture perspective. You are targeting. You're targeting. This right before this break. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 matches left before the World Cup break. So we got away at Nashville, home to Chicago, home to St. Louis City, home to Montreal. I tell you, those last 2 matches, St. Louis City, not a good team. Montreal have some wins against some bad teams in the Eastern Conference, but a game that you would expect to come in and win.
Yep.
And and then there's Chicago. That's going to be a tough match. So, you come away, unbeaten in this run, or even if you pick up a loss in Nashville, if you can come back and get a win, get a result against Chicago, you're setting yourself up. If this team is in the playoff picture by May, that will be a very successful, run of form for Renée, and set yourself up to where, if you go out and you nail the next transfer window, if Luis Munteanu continues to kind of grow, and maybe there's a real pairing between that develops over the next few games between him and Tai Baribo, and throw Jackson Hopkins into the mix, and then you're golden. You're golden.
It will also change the perspectives on on your DP horizon. What kind of players are likely to come in? If we were a dumpster fire, you're going to have a player that's like, I don't really care. Like this is either like an end of career check, or like just an economic circumstance I can't turn down. Not that DC United suddenly becomes a destination all of a sudden for players, but I think this team not being a basket case going into the summer window would help dramatically in those negotiations, and find some players that, maybe that we have heard of before they sign for our team. That is always my favorite, to have an opinion baked in already,
or analysis, or actual video.
Yeah, any of these things. Let's rock some of the. I think we've got a bunch of questions. Thank you to listeners for getting us locked and loaded for the show. I
wanted to start. Cap first brought up 3 big wins in the international break. Spirit look unrecognizable from before the break. Who on the squad would you rate as the most repute from the first few weeks? Like Sandy McNiver, I think deserves a shout out. She has tightened up her game extremely well. Saved a PK in the last game. I feel like the results weren't there for the Spirit, but other than the first game, both the remaining games, they were played well enough to get 3 points out of those games. It was just individual tight mistakes that kind of held them back a little bit. I didn't read too much. I don't think anybody really was reading too much into those results, and now they've started to put it together, and they look phenomenal.
When Jason was on the show, he shared the underlying numbers about expected goals for this club and like the chances generated, and they were like, it's just going to take some time, and then it's going to be nonstop, and that's we've now approached that. I would say I had heard secondhand some questioning about what role Andy Sullivan could still have to play on this team as things have moved along in her absence, and she did well in her first home game back. And I think that you need to just keep on expecting her to do more. I think that there may be some fans that came in the last year and a half and that don't really know what it is that she brings to the team, so they just don't know. But what you need to know is that she's going to, as soon as she's fully healthy and 90 minutes fit, she's going to start every game, and she's going to be an indispensable part of the team. So that's what that's about. But it is,
you see her slotting in for Hal Hirschfeld, because I thought Hal Hirschfeld's played better. And then you have Rebecca Bernal.
I think Bernal is more likely to make way. Although she's done well too, but I think she's more likely to make way, and then there's an opportunity to maybe rotate her and more at center back.
It's a rag of riches over at.
It's great.
Everybody talked about how they Corey Bethune, the trade to Corey Bethune, everything like that, and suddenly they have Claudia Martinez come in here, who I'm gonna go ahead and say it looks very good coming in. I'm pretty sure at least 2-3 years younger than when Corey Bethune started here. Looks incredibly good. Watch some of the analysis of her movement. She is doing stuff that you don't typically see from players at her age, and she's doing it at such a young age. Unbelievable that she is playing here in the Spirit. I think she is a player that you want to go watch, because I don't know how, hopefully she's here for a long time, but
I would hope
this is a player next World Cup. Paraguay are going to be a fun team to watch, presumably if they make the World Cup.
I would hope after they spent $1 million on a transfer fee that they signed her to a long contract, but I don't remember seeing that, to be clear. But yeah, they're in a good spot. Adrian Gonzalez winning Manager of the Month. Mm-hmm. Somebody was commenting on our Discord about how Jonah just whined the entire time he was here. Mm-hmm. I think we said it on the show a couple times, this team played really well for Adrian when he was interim Adrian. And then when the coaching change happened, they went a little more flat. Obviously they still had a good season, still had a, nearly championship winning season, but, yeah, he's a good manager. He really connects with these players, and he has, like you said, a wealth of options at his disposal, that he can really do what he needs to do with.
I mean, just having the idea that you can bring Kouassi off the bench is crazy. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, it's a good time to be a Spirit fan. So definitely I would check it out. All right, you want to roll through the rest of these Patreon questions?
Was that the only public facing?
That's the Discord one. I read off one of the questions. Nope, that was from last week. Yeah, so I think that's been the only released question. I guess Brendan Cartwright says is stating that it looks like it's the first time since 2023 that DC's won back-to-back games. I kind of quickly glanced at this count. They actually did it in October of 2024 when they beat New England and Nashville in that crazy game that could have vaulted them into the playoffs that year. And maybe we would have a completely different, it's like the butterfly effect of DC. But let's talk, let's go through some of these questions. This is from the Patreon. So Gregory Herbertson says, when Tai returns, how do you see the striker position playing out? Would DC change formation to allow both Lewis and Tai on the field at the same time? I don't know if you really need to shift, because Hopkins played outright to start the year. I think that was the initial goal, was Hopkins would be outright. And you had Pirani playing Luis's role with Tai Baribo. So swap in Luis, Munteanu right in that spot. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what type of formation or who kind of, I mean, honestly too, that potentially means that, I guess no, that means, so, Peglo would still be out there. Yeah. You would kind of have that. And then you would have to, Herrera would most certainly go to the bench in Hefti. I think Hopkins
would. One of Herrera or Hopkins will go.
Yeah, it's going to be Herrera or Hopkins, one of the two. Who do you want to see? I know you're. What's that?
I'd like to see. Those are most of my two favorite players on the team, and as of last year, I think Hopkins. You want to see more what he has to give you. Mm-hmm. I would go with that. I would see what that's like, and then you can certainly have a change of pace there if you're looking for maybe a more cultured right foot for crosses into Tai Baribo.
Yeah, I think it's going to be between Hopkins and Herrera sort of on that red side. I think it's going to be a situational moment where if we're playing in Nashville, it's going to be Tai Baribo, Luis Munteanu, assuming they're both healthy. Peglo's out there. I think you see Herrera out there, or Stroud. The
throw threat,
but are most likely Herrera, because you're trying to utilize defensively. You're trying to be sound defensively. So having Herrera out there is, play more direct, be that sort of defensive sort of option. Maybe he's got a little more tendency to do that. If you're playing a Montreal, I think you see Hopkins out there. I think you see them trying to push the game a little bit, use some of his creative sort of abilities to kind of push the game. So I don't know. We're entering a fascinating time now because Luis is starting. He has to. You can't bench him at this point. He's got 2 goals off the PK, and so you can't bench him. So Stephen Cladd says 2 wins and 2 draws in the last 4 games against fairly equal competition. How are we feeling about the team staring down a gauntlet of a busy May schedule and a Saturday showdown with Nashville? How do we feel? I think we kind of talked a little bit about that. I think there are 2 tough games I would highlight in there. So there's the Nashville and the Chicago game, and then kind of the Montreal and St. Louis games should be wins. Both those teams are not good. They're not having good seasons. Again, West is stronger than the East, but we should see a win there.
And like I said already, we're almost outperforming 2025. So I think that there's a regression is possible. I don't think we're not a team that you should expect to roll 7 wins off in a row. That's just not really the situation here. Be happy that we're on this run. I think if we can win the winnable games and steal points from the teams that are more talented than us and deeper than us, I think that's great. I'd roll into the summer. Give us a chance.
Again, there is still a lot of the structure of this team, a lot of the structure of this organization that is still definitely not anywhere close. And there's a lot of reasons to still not be happy. The on the field product looks palatable, but still there's some other things.
I thought we bullied the general manager off of LinkedIn.
No, man, he came back swinging, man. He came back 2 posts, man. He had 2 posts about this game. Yeah. So
I'm waiting for him to tag the show. We've got a LinkedIn page for some reason. I started like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Tag us, bro.
Aiden Kye says the team still has an open DP slot into the summer. Where do you see that being used? Is Hopkins the solution to Cam, or do we need a DP level, a creative player in that position?
Sorry, Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I honestly, it is going to be interesting because they've already, I talked a little bit about this at the Dozel from Portsmouth, who they've now apparently signed to a free contract. Apparently Portsmouth was like, oh, we're going to talk to him about it. And I'm like, isn't if he has a free contract, I'm not sure there's much else you can really do about it there. But that is certainly, and there was a lot of, I think, laughing from the national media of this. And I said, look, man, he's a depth guy. I mean, this is a guy you bring in to boost, Servania is great. I think he's had some good moments. I think his play has kind of stepped up. And I think that might be linked to the fact that he knows that there's a player challenging for his role. And so he's in like fight or flight type mode. That's good. And I think there's a little more competition maybe in that center defensive midfielder. So where they go with this position, I think the fact that they made that move for Dozel, I was wondering, would they go for like an 8? Would they go for somebody who'd be a little more offensive? From what we've gathered from Dozel, he's very much a holds center back. So I think they are keeping that kind of defensive midfield structure, 2 defensive midfield structures. So really the question is going to be, is it going to be on the right or the left side? As far as who they grab, as John is going to be switching out earbuds. Hopefully he's able to hear me and listen to me. Nope. We'll see. All right.
I was hot swapping headphones on the fly. It worked out.
Also, do you think Stroud starting versus NYCFC is a reward for his contributions against Orlando, or does Renée view him as the preferred position, the right wing over Herrera? I worry. I think that New York game was a little bit of, he played really well. That's like his performance against Orlando was the best he had looked in a long time. Had a couple moments, was able to get onto the ball. I don't think you need to look at Stroud or Herrera, honestly, too. I think Herrera's days are very much numbered with this team, based on his contract, based on sort of everything else, sort of, what we've seen maybe surrounding him. I think, unfortunately, his day, particularly the fact that Hefti's coming in, and Hefti, I think, probably costs about a third of what he makes in salary. I think
if Hefti had come in and looked like a complimentary player versus a guy that can and needed to start every week, then we're having a different conversation. Herrera's value at that contract was starting right back, fulcrum of the attack, also from that position. And now things have changed a little bit, and he's not as game changing up further up the field as he is back there. He can do it, but it's not 800,000 or whatever his contract is. Level. I
think what we've learned, and I forget, when he looked his best, it was when he was paired up kind of on that right back slot. And this is what happened. This is what happened to like I looked at like what happened with Kevin Paredes, who is unfortunately suffered injuries and everything like that. I cannot understand why Wolfsburg was playing him as a right back, as a right midfielder, as a winger, because I'm like, he's not a guy who's going to come in and bring you like attacking type of change style. But what he does really well in is when you're overloading that right side with a winger who's maybe a little more skillful, and he can use very direct type play to kind of, to be, that's when we saw him at his best, when he was paired up with somebody on that right side that he could play well against. And I think the problem with this team is Hefty's been so good. Hefty's been very good, in fact. And so now there's change. I think he stays the rest of the season. I think he might be out of the contract. He might have some trade value, but I think also if he was on $500,000-$600,000, I think you'd see a lot of teams asking. The fact that he's on $900,000, but I don't know, maybe a team making a run to a championship has some extra gam laying around and is
San Jose. San Jose is a team that I think would be interesting there, as far as they've got room. They can't spend on. Bruce Arena has talked about, like, I'm playing like children that I found in San Jose every week, and we're doing great, and it's awesome. We don't have the money to spend on players externally, still true, but on budget players, potentially they could find there could be some money in the banana stand for an Aaron Herrera. I don't know what their needs are right back, but
I think it's also going to be a question of how the season's going. Things bottom out, if things go really poorly, if things start to. We've been here before, man. We've been here before where vibes felt good. 2021 being that one where I talked about the last time this team had a 4-game unbeaten streak with 2 wins, where things felt really good. Oh man, here we go. We're on a rocket ship, and then things kind of fall apart. Also, after Renee's comments, Pirani is almost certainly gone in the summer. Is there any chance to make back some of the investment, or do you just bite the bullet and buy him out? Yeah.
At a certain point, if you continue to bury this man in the press, you can't have him just hanging around. Because anybody at a certain point would start to become really disruptive. I don't even know if he's training with the team. Have we seen any pictures of him when they do social media stuff I would not even have him around the team, to be honest with you.
Yeah. They do have, I was checking, is this the last year? They do have an option. So I guess they exercise his option in 2026, and then they have an option for him in 2027. So technically he is still like under contract. That's how the options work. So even if DC intends to decline the option, I think they will try to shop him. They will try to see if there is any type of interest. I think they will target to see if they can at least make back the fee that they spent on him. There may still
long odds. Well, you can't be like, this player is selfish and sucks. Would you like to buy him for $1 million, please?
Yeah, how much? $1 million is kind of cheap.
It is, but I don't know. I think the best you can hope for is for him not to be around to kick around anymore. That's really, I think that's the best outcome for everybody, him included.
I think you'll see them try to sell him in the summer. If they don't, then it's just a declined option. We're done, and we'll move on.
And the 10 jersey is open again.
3 tough games coming in 1 week coming up. How many points can we expect to get? Nashville, yikes. Chicago and St. Louis. St. Louis aren't that good. They are not. St. Louis have not been a good team. They are bottom of the West, bottom of the West, as far as that goes. How many points can we expect? 4?
I was going to say 4.
Yeah, 4. Maybe 1 draw against Chicago. I think you win against St. Louis. Nashville's probably a loss. Anything above that is golden.
Then it's get crazy with the vibes. Then it's be like, well, I mean, the East is pretty weak. Like, we could be looking for like a number 2 or 3 seed if we want it bad enough. We just got to make some improvements around like small changes.
Yeah.
Enjoy it while it's here. There's a good chance that this amount of games in May humble us a little bit. It's entirely possible, but be happy. If there's anything this team has taught us, is that if they give you a couple weeks to be happy, take it. Or hold on to it. Treasure it.
After looking shaky, Sean John is getting his form back. How much does that play a role? Is he directing the defense mostly, or is it Bartlett or Rowles? I can't tell easily over TV. Sean Johnson's still an incredible shot stopper.
Yep.
He is a great shot stopper, and I think we're seeing that in the game. Where he struggles a little bit, I think, is maybe some of his quicker movement. It's not quite all there, particularly I think on a lot of crosses have been kind of his Achilles heel this year. But he's still a great shot stopper. He's 36. He's not as agile as he used to be. But he's extending his play pretty well. And also freeing up a U22 spot, Pirani, if I'm not mistaken, who is a dream get versus a realistic get on the DC radar, if you were to speculate. I think you can, I'll double check this, but in my opinion, I don't want to see them get anybody. I just want to see a new contract for Jackson Hopkins. That's a U22 initiative slot. Because that lowers his cap hit. Yeah, he's 21 right now, born in 2004, so he'll be 22. So he's still 21 years old right now because his birthday is July 1st. So he will be turning 22. So you can offer him that U22 slot. If I am a betting man, I would say that there will be a new contract for him come up that will be a U22 initiative slot. And I think that has been so far the one sort of successful avenue of this sort of academy. This sort of U22 slot has not been going out and finding players. It's been keeping some of your academy kids around by offering them a little more money to stay once they've proven it. We saw with Teku DiPietro. Now he was traded, but Caden Clark being another, that can kind of keep their value up because you're paying them more while also keeping their cap hit low. And RJR says, will Caden Clark be traded in the summer? That's a good question. He is not. He did not really making too many appearances.
At least he does not get in the Pirani treatment as far as like the reputational destruction that the Pirani is. I think you probably see him out. The problem is that the story has grown long on this player now. He fails to make an impact. He moves on with MLS. And he came to this club with a glaring need at that position and couldn't displace a 22-year-old that had that to that point not had any sort of sustained run in that position. So I think his return would be low if they were to move it.
Did they renegotiate his contract when they signed him, or is he still? I think he's still okay. Never mind. So he will occupy. He was under contract with 2025 options in 2026 and 2027. So he is under contract next season. So I guess that does mean there is some trade value. I thought he only had a 2026 option, and then where we're getting with him. So I don't know. That's. Maybe there's a sale somewhere if he's not getting the minutes. I think it's going to depend. Do they have another idea for that U22 slot? Do they need that freed up? With Pirani going, I think he'll stick around. I think there will be a certain moment where if this team is still alive in the playoffs, if there's still a hunt, they're going to want to they're going to want to keep some cohesion around the roster to try to push for that. To make the playoffs again. Artist says, if given the responsibility of acquiring DC players in the summer, would you sign 1 or 2 wingers? 1 winger is who I would sign. I think you need another center midfielder depth piece. So yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think you need, so that might be somewhere within the league, but they are maxed out on international spots, I believe, after the signing of Dozil coming in. Apparently he's got American grandparents, but I'm going to see.
I feel like in subsequent windows, if you can look to upgrade the Peglo position, I would do that. I think he's looked pretty good, but I still think if you're looking at where you've committed money, where you can expect to improve, I think it's still the wings. You're not gonna improve on your number 9, and Munteanu is going to be is going to have to sink or swim and continue to swim, hopefully. So it's the only place it can go.
Yeah. And finally, does Markovic replace Bartlett in the starting lineup this season?
Nope.
Don't think so?
Nope. I think he's we got a Birnbaum situation here. I think Bartlett's had a resurgent year, as much as I think people wanted to. He was a center back on a really garbage team last year. His stats took a hit. He was cranky at the beginning of the season. I think he's looked very good. I think Kye Rowles has made him look even better. Markovic has the benefit of not having to be thrown into the deep water so soon, but look to him to start getting more and more starts. But I think you still, your first choice 11 when everyone's healthy still probably contains Bartlett.
I think there will be next season. I think there's going to be some questions about, when this team can really start to maybe turn some things over. They might have some ability. I think some teams might start asking, because they know Markovic is out there. He's on a rookie contract, so there's less cap hit there. I think you're going to see, Kye Rowles also. I'm curious to know his green card situation. He had a mysterious absence from a game, and I feel like if Goff was here, we'd have found out he's got it. I think I will not be shocked if we find out that Kye Rowles gets a green card, which would free up an international slot and might, for me, replace the situation of, who do you keep? Do you keep Kye Rowles? And also, Australia in the World Cups.
If we have any listeners who are willing to do crimes at the Department of State and find out exactly what the status is on green card applications, we'll start a Signal account so you can message us the secret information.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right, John. I think that's going to do it. John, I hope you can at least now take the easy pass lanes up to
there should be no traffic. God, I mean, at 9:40.
I don't know, man. I've driven around. I've been around DC at like 9 p.m. I was
expecting to get out of here like 10:45. I still got a pack, so I'm still kind of an idiot for that one. But it's all right. I'll be okay. I'll drink some. I'll get some Monster Energy at the Wawa. We'll be good to go.
Sounds good, man. All right, well, safe travels, my friend, and best of luck. Thank you guys for all for listening. Sorry for the Patreon people. You don't get a special episode this week. This will all be free.
But you got two of us at once again.
Yeah,
that's
man,
a present on its own.
You did.
See you next week.
Vamos.
100 an hour, A+.